But Mark, let's move on into our next topic. And for the rest of the podcast, we are focusing on the 2018 NFL Draft. And the reason why, Mark, is because next week, you and I will release our first NFL mock draft. You'll have yours, I'll have mine. We'll discuss them the first time we're doing it.
It's going to be good.
Draft season for both NBA and NFL was actually kicked off this week. As if you guys haven't watched already, it's going to be up there. Check out the big board. The first big board of the year was out for the NFL with Brandon and I. So check that out. But today, what we're looking at first is Baker Mayfield. And Baker Mayfield, a guy who has had some questions, good quarterback on the field, has had some sideline antics. Yet again, check out a conversation that Brandon and I had about that. But I want to ask you on the NFL side, Mark, because obviously Baker Mayfield is going to be drafted, whether that's first round, whether that's second round. I want to ask you, who's the best NFL fit? Which team is the best fit for Baker Mayfield?
It's pretty tough. I think that something that he needs is discipline.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you think of Baker Mayfield, if you don't think about 41 touchdowns, you're going to think about off-the-field antics, sideline antics, whatever it is. He needs somewhere where he's going to have someone hammer it into him that this is not how we do things here. Now, this one that I think is the best fit, I think there's no way in hell he ends up here.
Okay.
And I think it would have to be, you mentioned second round, so I think that he has to be taken in the first round if this happens. And he definitely could sneak up, but I think Johnny Manziel will scare some people from that mistake of drafting him in the first round. The team I think is the best fit for him, and he will be a good fit for them, is the New England Patriots. He's got time to sit. He will learn. He will learn the Patriot way, which you all know I think is a little stupid, but Bill Belichick will hammer it into his head.
It works.
Quit jerking off on the sideline.
I mean, let's be honest. The guy that you and I were talking about in between recording segment 1 and segment 2, Rob Gronkowski, who, not the same as Baker Mayfield, but still a party animal off the field. He's been able to work in this Patriot system. Yeah,
and there's just this. The players of the Patriots kind of have this, I don't want to say a no-nonsense type of mentality, but they have when you're here, you put it all aside, you leave it at the door, you come, you play, you do your job.
You are not an individual. You are a part of the team.
And that's the Bill Belichick thing, do your job. So I think that is the best fit for him on also in a personal, kind of emotional, mental level.
Will he end there, though? No.
I can't see it happening because they're not going to pick him in the first round, and they're going to be high enough in the draft to where I don't think they get him in the second.
Well, and here's the thing with Baker Mayfield. Right now, on my personal big board, I had him at, I want to say, like 2021. I had him in the below 20 range. And the reason why is I think he's a phenomenal quarterback talent. But it's those off-the-field antics, and I think the maturity question comes in for me. And for me with Baker Mayfield, you got to have that system, that kind of culture that is going to reel him in and say, hey, this is how we do things. Like, the ones that I automatically think of for fits, I was like, well, the Giants could work because, Eli, you got a couple years of that. He can learn the NFL way, then come in. But with what we just talked about in the last segment, how their whole organization is in disarray, especially with all the distractions. And I know it's not Johnny Manziel type of stuff, but we use Johnny Manziel because there are so many analysts that have been like, well, it kind of reminds me of Johnny Manziel on the football field. And I don't care how you're talking about that. You mentioned Johnny Manziel compared to anybody. I think that's a bad connotation. You could be talking about the football skills. If it was me personally, I'd be like, no, get that comparison away from me. I don't want Johnny Football in the same breath as my name. So the Giants, they go, it'd be a good fit player-wise, but the fit doesn't fit like a glove, like I want it to. Like, there are other teams, like I look at the Buffalo Bills. But the Buffalo Bills, with everything going on with Tyrod, I don't know if you want to be in that situation.
It gets messy, yeah.
Here's a team that I think he'd be perfect for. The Denver Broncos. You have a
interesting.
guy like John Elway who is at the top of that organization who can take in Baker Mayfield and virtually do the same thing the Patriots could do, but in a different way. Instead of it be the organizational, like Bill Belichick has set his Patriot way and his culture, it's John Elway basically being the mentor to Baker Mayfield, more so because let's be honest, the Paxton Lynch experiment,
Failed.
I'm done with it.
Terribly.
Like, started this week, you even sent a text, whoa, wait, I thought Paxton Lynch was in. What's going on? And Sean goes, oh, he got hurt. I'm done. He's done. Draft a new quarterback. You don't have one. You need one. And if Baker Mayfield, like the thing with the Broncos, and this could actually, the more I think about it, could happen because if you look at the overall league standings right now, they have a top 5 pick. Right now, they're at 4. And I know some people may be saying, whoa, Ricky, you just said he's in the lower, like, 20s of your big board. Mm-hmm. What are you doing talking top 5? By the time we get to the draft, put everything that could happen. Good combine, good interviews at the combine, good pro day. What if he wins the college football playoff? You put all of these things into the melting pot, into the blender, and he could rise into a early first rounder where the Denver Broncos could be right there saying, hey, let's take him. Let's take him early on. And he could be projected there by the time we get to the end of the draft cycle.
My thing that scares me with that, essentially, is the fact that it's a quarterback mess in Denver right now. You know, you got the...
Because they don't have one.
Well, yeah, you got Trevor
Baker,
Siemian.
they would have one.
I don't know that they would. I mean, they would in the fact that they drafted him in the first round, most likely. I mean, they honestly could probably draft him in the second round with the way things are currently. Like we said, things change. But I just feel like he would be kind of by default, but I don't think he's the kind of person. I don't think he's going to be Deshaun Watson who comes in there and just starts throwing all over everybody. You know, I don't think he's ready to come in. And I mean, he's got all the all the great stats out here for his college senior year. You know, like I said, I think it's like 40, 41 touchdowns, 4,000 plus yards. Doing great for Oklahoma. But I don't know. I don't know if he's ready to come in here and be a pro quarterback. Not saying ever, not saying in just a year, but I don't think he's ready to come in here, take all of it, and just lead a team immediately. And part of that is just the mentality of it. You know, I don't know if I trust him maturity-wise yet.
Well, and that's the big thing he's going to have to overcome. And that's why I mentioned the interview.
That's going to be important.
When it comes to the combine, because, I mean, I'm looking right now on ESPN. They have an article. However, all 5 of the teams that they list, I don't know if I'm absolutely in love with any of them. Like, the Dolphins are the number 1 team on their list. I mean, you've got Ryan Tannehill, but it's like, Ryan Tannehill's been injured, but are you then going to give up on him? Are you going to think that, hey, you know what, he can sit behind Tannehill?
The thing I will say, it's a good coach for a young quarterback.
The New Orleans Saints, I get the Sean Payton kind of like, yeah, you have Ingram, you have Kamara, you have weapons for him to work with. You do have a solid head coach in Sean Payton, and Drew Brees. He's 38. He's getting there. He's not going to be there forever, though. So it's kind of like, maybe 1 or 2 years out of Drew Brees. New England, who you mentioned. The Giants, who I mentioned. I'm not in love with that one. And then lastly, the Minnesota Vikings, who their quarterback situation's up in questions as well. But the thing that I wanted to throw out in this one is I heard this from some college analyst. I can't remember who it was, but they basically said that a good fit for Johnny, like not a good fit, but the way they phrased it was they said, what if he went to Cleveland? Do you think that Baker Mayfield
that'd be terrible.
Could succeed in Cleveland? And
nobody can succeed.
I can't remember this analyst's name on ESPN for the college side, but he said, I believe that Baker could go into Cleveland and basically turn around the Browns. He has the
How many times have we said that about a quarterback?
Mindset to just say, I'm so competitive, I'm going to go out there and win games and turn around the Browns.
It's an NFL quarterback. Every NFL quarterback is competitive. No, there's no way that anybody's going to go in there and be the savior of Cleveland quarterback-wise. It's just not going to
Unless your
happen.
name's LeBron James.
He's not an NFL quarterback.
I know, but I said, unless your name's LeBron James.
You know who? Yeah, Cleveland. Nobody wants to go there. A team that I think, honestly, if a team's going to draft this guy, it's probably Cleveland. They'll trade up into the first round. I think that a team I could see something working for is actually the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Huh.
And I don't necessarily say that because I'm trying to throw Blake Bortles out the door.
I was at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, things have been working pretty well for him, but they've got a really strong defense. I mean, great defense. They've got a great young running back. They've got options to throw the ball to. You have Doug Marrone doing a good job.
Tom Coughlin leading the team in the executive office.
Tom Coughlin, who's going to be that no-nonsense kind of guy who says, very similar to what I was saying with Bill Belichick, of, all right, you're in our stadium now, you're a Jaguar now, you cut that shit out. Or you are getting cut. Now, I don't know because Blake Bortles makes it complicated. If Blake Bortles did what we all expected him to do, then, yeah, it'd be good. He has not been bad. He hasn't been great. He's been good enough to not lose a job. So that's the thing that kind of throws a wrench into the Jacksonville Jaguar area.
Well, the thing with Blake Bortles that I absolutely love this year is his touchdowns. He's kind of on pace to be the same. He's at 14 right now, but half the interceptions of last year.
Yeah.
He's only at 8 interceptions, and I want to say since the October 28th game, the Colts game, basically, since that game, he's only thrown 3 interceptions, and those came in 2 games. The Charger game, which they won in overtime, and then the Cardinal game that they lost that one. I want to throw one out there at you, and this is one that I'm not exactly in love with for Baker Mayfield because they are a team that, yet again, they don't have, to me, the culture that I think could solidify something to tailor to his the sideline antics and the big question for me is maturity in everything, because even look at the Ohio State game with the whole planting. I didn't have a big problem with that, but some NFL execs might have a problem with that. Showboating is a big thing. And you said, like the Patriots, do your job. Bill Belichick's not a guy that's going to throw it in your face. He'll give you a no-nonsense answer, not even an answer at all. But the team that I'm going to throw out there, because they could lose their quarterback this year, the Washington Redskins.
I just don't want him to go anywhere where he's going to have to start right away. I don't think he's mature enough to handle it. You know, and I don't necessarily want to doubt his skills, although I think there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve. To me, it purely comes down to I don't want to hand this guy my team. This is when I
want him to prove that he deserves my team.
This is when your 16 or your 15-year-old just turned 16. They're ready to get their license.
You're not going to give him the Porsche.
Yeah, you're not handing over those keys. You're saying you drive the shitty van for a while.
Yeah, drive the soccer mom van.
And you prove to me, if that's if we're even going to let you take the car, before you prove to me that you are mature enough to handle the responsibility of a car.
Off topic really quick.
Yeah.
First car when you got your license, what was it?
Like a first car that I drove?
Yes, like you just got your license. This is the car your parents let you drive. Do you remember?
I don't remember which one really was the first one. There was the van, the minivan, and there was a PT Cruiser.
Okay.
I drove both. I don't remember which one was which.
Mine was the only one I could drive because it was my grandpa's Oldsmobile Alero. That was my first car. Nice. Not a bad car, but also it wasn't like a nice shiny Porsche.
Hey, I was in bands and stuff like that, so I loved having the van.
You needed something to carry all those instruments.
The van was great, although the PT Cruiser had a lot of room.
Mm-hmm. You throw out, though, back to Baker Mayfield. Don't want him to start right away.
Yeah.
Then I'll throw on another team. This is one that has a potential out with the quarterback they have, but he doesn't have to start right away. I mentioned the Buffalo Bills earlier. Would you be not in love, but what would you think if Buffalo landed Baker Mayfield to sit behind Tyrod?
It's not terrible, but
I know they have Peterman.
The problem is they don't have Peterman. That's not anybody. The problem is that they have no desire for Tyrod Taylor to be their quarterback. They've already shown that time and time again. So if they draft a guy like Baker Mayfield, he is default starter day one.
True.
And that's exactly what I'm trying to avoid.
So really, let's be completely honest here. We're basically defaulting to the two main spots that would be perfect for him are the Patriots, because Tom Brady's going to be here for a while.
Yep, till
and
he's
Bill
80.
Belichick has the system in place, and the Saints. Because the Saints, you still have a guy like Drew Brees in front of you, and Sean Payton could be a coach that could work with Baker Mayfield. Those are really the only two that are like, yes, in love with if he goes there, but there's a sprinkling of others. Like you mentioned, Jacksonville, like I'll say my Denver Bronco one of where it's like, if it happened, you're like, okay, let's see how it happens. Let's see what goes with. But are the Patriots and the Saints really like really it's one of those two teams,
I
or
don't
it's
think they'll take him.
Toss of a coin.
Yeah, I think a team is going to try. Like you said before, there's a lot of time here, so I think a team is really going to try and make a splash with this guy. I think he's got issues now, but he'll be a draft climber.
Well, and the thing that's going to play important into this is, I'm going to say his college football playoff is going to be really important, because the time off, not really, because how often do you have a month off between games in the NFL? Not really. You don't. The largest you have is 2 weeks. If you have a bye week or you make the Super Bowl, because you virtually get a bye week before the Super Bowl. That's really the largest time off you're going to have. But just are you going to play up for that big moment? Because the last time we saw him in the college football playoff, his team got blown out by Clemson 2 years ago. No, that was a completely different Oklahoma team, but let's see what you're doing with the offense that you have now. Also, I feel like the interviews at the Combine are going to be huge when it comes to Baker Mayfield and where he is drafted. But before we move on, any final thoughts that you have about either Baker Mayfield or a fit that we didn't talk about with an NFL team?
No, I just think that when it comes to Baker Mayfield, it'll be very interesting to see his climb. Because like I said, I mean, everything outside of where we are right now is just going to help him climb back up. So that'll be something to watch, and some team's going to probably fall in love with him.
The thing I want to throw out there, and this is for all the Baker Mayfield supporters and lovers, at the first mock draft, where was Patrick Mahomes? Not even in the quarterback discussion. It was Watson, it was Trubisky.
Well, he was in mine.
Yeah, but for most people, Watson, Trubisky. My first mock draft, I made a statement last year. I didn't have a single quarterback because I didn't think any of them deserved to be.
Look how that worked out.
Eventually, I had Trubisky at number 2, which that's where he ended up going. But Mahomes worked himself in. Baker Mayfield can work himself in. Let's not crown him. Let's have him earn it. But this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you guys think. What would be the best ideal fit for Baker Mayfield in the NFL? Let us know what you guys think down below in the comment section.